Northampton are many pundits' pick for this season's Premiership title. They showed why at Franklin's Gardens after a flying start by a man with something to prove this season. His red card in the Premiership final cost Dylan Hartley a place on the Lions tour, but after just 2 minutes, the Saints skipper finished Luther Burrell's pass to put the home side on their way. The home fans got their first meaningful glimpse of big summer signing George North soon after, but aside from this break, the Welshman had a quiet debut, and Saints' second try came from the other winger, Ken Peasy, on the end of another Burrell pass to score in the corner. Northampton were in complete control and extended their lead just 4 minutes later. Ben Foden's kick bounced kindly for the fullback, who offloaded for the waiting Tom Wood. 2 Gareth Steenson penalties were all Exeter had to show for the first half, and Saints had the bonus point try just before the break. Quick hands and superb support play, creating the opportunity for centre George Peasy. 31 points to 6 down at the turnaround, the Chiefs could only get better, and they were helped by a yellow card for Courtney Laws after a dangerous tackle on Matt Jess. Not that Exeter could score against 14 men. Only once Laws had returned did his opposite number Dean Mumm crash over for a consolation try. That served only to spark Saints back into life, and they had the last word with their 5th try. Samu Manoa rumbled over from a line-out. Stephen Myler completed a flawless kicking display with a conversion to seal a performance that suggests Northampton may just live up to the pre-season hype. Final score, Saints 38, Chiefs 11.
Leicester Tigers took on Worcester Warriors at Welford Road. It was the champions who started fastest. Stand-in Tigers fly half Ryan Lamb slotting over a penalty to get their title defence underway. Shortly after, Adam Tomstone pounced on a great Niall Morris grubber kick to grab the Tigers' first try of the season, and Lamb converted to put the Tigers 10-0 up. Tigers continued to build a strong lead and added a second penalty from Lamb before Ignacio Mieres countered with a penalty goal to kick off Warriors' campaign with 33 minutes gone. On the stroke of half-time, Tigers' David Mele crossed for his first try to reaffirm the champions' dominant stance. Lamb converted to give Leicester an 18-3 half-time lead. 5 minutes after the restart, and Mike Williams was shown a yellow card for a shoulder on Lamb, and Leicester took full advantage by adding a third try. Jordan Crane found a gap, and Lamb added the extras. Dean Ryan, Worcester's director of rugby, was hoping to break the club's century-long duck, having never won at Welford Road in 11 attempts. And his half-time team talk seemed to work as the Warriors started the second half in positive fashion. Mike Williams returned from the bin and Worcester began to grow in confidence and build pressure. The fight back was on. Chris Jones crossed the whitewash and Mieres converted, but the visitors remained 15 points adrift as the game approached the hour mark. Josh Matavesi crafted a brilliant try with a step, some searing pace and brute force that just got him over the whitewash for Worcester's second on 66 minutes. It threatened to make the final 10 minutes interesting, but the Tigers' defence held firm before Nicky Gonover's even more audacious effort right on the whistle grabbed a bonus point on the opening day of the season. Final score at Welford Road, Leicester Tigers 32, Worcester Warriors 15.
So now it's confirmed, week 1 is the time to visit Gloucester. After 7 straight defeats to start last term, Sale got off to a flyer against a team for whom the first 40 minutes of the campaign seemed to come as a nasty shock. They were certainly surprised by Mark Cueto's 79th Premiership try. The TV match official dismissed Gloucester's calls for a forward pass by Nick McLeod, but they couldn't blame bad luck for an 11-point deficit at the break, which grew larger 11 minutes into the second half. Cueto with the chip through for Andy Forsyth. And this time the home fans cried offside against the centre. The appeals waved away again by the TMO, and Gloucester were looking at an opening day defeat for the 4th season running. That prospect stirred them to action, not all of it laudable. Cueto tipped in the tackle by Billy Twelvetrees, with referee Andrew Small deciding on yellow rather than red. With their England centre in the bin, all seemed lost, but while he was missing, Gloucester finally snapped out of it. Henry Trinder finding a way through, and there was just a chance, but only if their kicker could find his range. Freddie Burns had endured a first half to forget from the tee, but a conversion and 2 quick penalties cut the arrears to 3 points, with time and momentum on Gloucester's side. But Sale's desire to secure a first away win since February proved stronger. Their last foray forward gave replacement Joe Ford the chance to stretch the lead once more. The last 10 minutes passed all too slowly for the Sharks, especially once replacement Ross Harrison was sin-binned. The 14 men denied Gloucester's last chance. And then Steve Diamond and his men could finally relax. 12 months ago, they lost their opener by almost 40 points. This felt rather better, especially for a 33-year-old winger who'd given the Premiership's young pretenders something to think about.
The 10th edition of Premier Rugby's London doubleheader kicked off with London Irish entertaining Saracens. With the weather in complete contrast to Friday night, both teams were able to keep the ball in hand, and Owen Farrell put Sarries ahead after Irish were penalised early on. Jamie George had been given his chance after the retirement of John Smith and suspension of Shout Brits, and the hooker grasped it with both hands, barging over from close range to extend the lead to 8-0. Farrell converted, and despite the Sarries' 10-point lead after 10 minutes, Irish were making some inroads. A Topsy-Ojo-inspired break gave Ian Humphreys the chance to get the Exiles onto the board, which he duly took to reduce the arrears to 7. Saracens replied with the Farrell boot and then tried number 2, a second for George to savour. His line-out throw led to a ruck from which the elusive hooker snuck through a gap to beat the defence and touchdown in the corner. Farrell missed the conversion, and from the restart Sarries were ambushed. David Pace with a brilliant offload to send 22-year-old Kieran Lowe off and siding through to dot down under the post for a Humphreys converted try and reduce the deficit to 18-10 towards the end of the half. But Sarries were not done, and a huge hit by Alistair Hargreaves on Irish number 8 Fisher led to another Farrell penalty and a 21-10 half-time lead for Mark McCall's side. 2 more Farrell penalties in 10 minutes after the break gave Saracens a 27-10 cushion. Humphreys pulled a penalty back as the Exiles worked hard, but with less than 20 minutes to go, the contest was all but over. Mako Vunipola had joined his brother in the fray at this point, and his impact was almost immediate, stealing the Irish ball from the restart and then bundling over from close range for try number 3. Farrell converted for a 34-13 lead, and the only question left was whether Sarries would get the try bonus point. Matthew Stevens was sent to the sin bin on 66 minutes, and Irish took advantage through Marlon Yard. Yard, who had a fine game up to this point, so much so that he was taking treatment for cramp when he jumped up, received a reverse flip pass from Chris Hallalafia and skated down the wing to score by the post. Humphreys slotted the conversion for a 20-34 deficit, but any thought of an amazing comeback was snuffed out by Farrell's 6th penalty, and then with the last play of the game, Chris Ashton secured the bonus point just by rolling the ball onto the try line. So a perfect start for Saracens, but it looks like a tough season ahead for Brian Smith's side. Final score at Twickenham, London Irish 20, Saracens 42. Match 2 of the doubleheader saw Wasps as the home side host old rivals Harlequins. Quins were highly fancied, but in a game that didn't go to script, it was Joe Launchbury who was on hand to pick up the pass from Sam Jones after the flanker made a fine bust, and the 22-year-old second row dotted down in the first minute. Andy Good converted, and then traded penalties with Nick Evans to make the score 10-3 after 13 minutes. And that's the way it stayed until half-time. Plenty of scoring opportunities were squandered by both sides, as the game could have turned into a points fest. But it didn't, and it was Kiwi Evans who narrowed the score to 10-9 with 2 penalties in 10 minutes after the break. After that, Wasps were under siege, with Quins camped on their try line for almost 10 minutes, until Danny Kerr's replacement Carl Dixon sold the perfect dummy to dart over and touch down for a 16-10 lead once Evans had nailed the conversion. With less than 10 minutes to go, Wasps threw the kitchen sink at the Quins' defence, but the 2012 champions held firm until stoppage time, when Good slung a pass to Tom Palmer and the Big England lot spun through the tackles and touched down to give Dai Young's side the chance of a dramatic win. Andy Good, the man with the second most Premiership points in history, currently 1,846, stepped up to break Quins' hearts, but the 33-year-old managed to hit the upright, and Conor O'Shea and Harlequins could breathe a collective sigh of relief for the second year in a row. Final score at Twickenham, London Wasps 15, Harlequins 16. Newcastle Falcons kicked off the 2013-2014 Aviva Premiership season with Director of Rugby Dean Richards returning to the Premiership after 3 years and his team back at the top table after just 1. Bath had not lost at Kingston Park since 2003, but Gary Gold's side have only won away from the wreck once in the Premiership since February 2012. So the opening fixture made for an interesting matchup. Unfortunately, the weather didn't play into the hands of glamorous running rugby. Driving wind and rain meant possession was kept tight and the rolling maul ruled. Bath's new fly half George Ford opened the scoring after 6 minutes, as both sides struggled to come to terms with the new scrummaging laws as well as the weather. Falcons centre Jamie Heller took a nasty bang on the head while trying to knock down Matt Banahan, and the game was stopped for 15 minutes. But apart from the occasional snipe, neither side looked likely to cross the whitewash. Falcon standoff Phil Godman missed a fairly straightforward shot at the post, and it was Ford who had the last word of the half, doubling the lead with a strong penalty into the wind to give Bath a 6-0 half-time advantage. The second half was a similar wrestling match, but Bath made much better use of the northerly wind, pinning Newcastle back into their 22 with good use of the boot, and eventually the pressure did tell. A new Bath front row, shunting Newcastle off the ball, and Ford slotting the resultant penalty for a 9-0 lead. Ford kept up the cross kicks and some stout home defence was finally undone. The pick and drive off the line out gave the Bath pack a chance to rumble towards the whitewash, and it was Samoan Anthony Perenise who dotted down. This time Ford did miss, but Bath were fully in control at 14-0 up and less than 20 minutes to go. The substitutions of Frank Montanella and Kieran Brooks seemed to hurt Falcons, and with just 3 minutes to go, Wayne Barnes awarded Bath a converted penalty try to seal a good outing for the West Country outfit, while Dean Richards will be left to take what positives he can from a rough night in the North East. Final score at Kingston Park, Newcastle 0, Bath 21.